This is the Fifth Estate winning headlines, your media police post. Brought to you by the Fort Hall School of Government, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 6th of March, 2020, and I am 2J.
I am JM.
And I am GK, and in case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Star, powerful individuals murdered KENEI, DCI. In the Daily Nation, murder, DCI zeroes in on RUTO'S office. And in the Standard, who killed RUTO man?
Wow.
Yes.
In continuation from the statement made by Kinoti yesterday.
Yes. So I like the questions, firstly, that the Standard has asked.
Yes.
Basically asking, what did KENEI know to warrant his murder?
Yep.
Who did he call last? Because we see CCTV footage of him answering a call, passing it to the general, all sorts of things.
Receiving instructions.
What were his last movements, and why is Kinoti prosecuting this case in public? And basically that's from yesterday's press statement that was quite flamboyant. And then why are there no arrests yet? Given that we know that there's some suspects, there's people who called, there's a lot of things. So I think we should frame this conversation with two things.
Yes.
Right? Are we focusing on the wrong things? Now, yesterday we had this huge conversation about 23 minutes versus an hour and 22 minutes, and whether it was that or the other. And perhaps we're focusing on the wrong thing.
It's a bit of a distraction.
Absolutely.
I don't think the question shouldn't be whether it was 23 minutes or 1 hour, 22 minutes. The point is they were there.
That they were there. And the other question I have is, are we focusing on the wrong CCTV footage? So we know that the meeting happened, that's a given.
Yes.
But is there other footage that could possibly piece this thing together that we're missing? And then the other question I have is this a distraction from something else? Right? So there have been some developments in the county government of Nairobi. Apparently, Igade may not have actually officially resigned. Is this a coup of sorts? What's happening?
I don't
Well, to answer your first one, I think there's a lot of things that don't add up. And Kinoti is prosecuting this case, I think, in the public domain. For reasons unknown to us. But maybe it's because, and I think he referenced this, that there are some very powerful individuals involved. And this is kind of his way to attempt to make that evident. And that this is why it's coming out in the public domain.
Sending a message
to someone else. And we can see that the Standard and the Standard and the Daily Nation have picked up on what he's not saying. But is that dangerous? I don't know if it's wise for him to, as you're saying, dog whistle. Without us knowing where he's taking it.
Right. And then the other thing we had said was that perhaps this is a distraction because we're like, this case has come together very neatly.
Too neat.
In a few days, we suddenly know that it was a murder. Suicide wasn't a suicide, that people were called, that phones were clean. It's all coming together very quickly, very neatly, which also raises questions, I think, in itself. The other thing I think I want us to talk about is, what is the bigger picture, right? We know that 11 million shillings were paid in consultancy fees. We can get on board with that. However, there's this other amount that was going to total to 39 billion. And the first portion of it was going to be 3.9 billion. Is that where the crime lay? Is that...
And that's quite possible. Maybe there was actually no arms deal. There was no material that was exchanged. Maybe all of this was just a huge ploy to get 3.9 billion.
Exactly. And then we see a situation where we're like, if we were even to play it forward, DOD has come out and said,
this is not how we do procurement.
So were these goods to come? Let's say that it was going to get to its logical conclusion. Where were these arms going to be stored? And I think there's an issue with Kenya sort of always being the conduit for weird, illicit goods, whether it's fake gold or
other strange
arms.
That's quite true.
We're adding to our list.
Exactly, that goes back to 2M's theory that maybe if this was a legitimate arms deal, that maybe Kenya was a conduit because it was going to another country. Exactly.
And
so
we were just the middleman.
Exactly.
I'm reminded of a quote by Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote the
author of the
books of Sherlock Holmes. And he says, once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. And I think this is where Kinoti has reached. He knows something that we don't know.
Exactly.
He knows a lot more information than we know. And he's trying to really pin this down on one man.
On one man. And now that leads us to, if we look at the headlines, Daily Nation has mentioned Ruto. The Star, no, not the Star, but the Standard has also mentioned Ruto. And here we say, okay, what are the political ramifications
of this case?
Of sort of playing this out in this public domain? Are we pointing fingers in a very obvious direction?
Yes, and I think as we talk about the dog whistling, that's what the logical conclusion might be. Are we heading towards some kind of impeachment? Or
so what is the political cui bono of such a crime?
That's what KENEI'S is priming the public towards.
And so is
creating a ground of acceptance for something bigger here, a bigger political move.
That's very true.
And so was this an engineered crime? Was this
exactly? And I feel like we could teetotal on that. Was it
interesting?
Yes.
So we have a 3-part criteria that we use to break down the headlines. We ask ourselves, is it topical or speculative? Topical. Is it repetitive or groundbreaking? Repetitive, but we'll give them that. It is topical.
Of course.
And is it thoughtful or just plain lazy?
I think for the first time, I'm going to side with the Star. Because I think the combination of the imagery of, showing how he might have been killed, combined with the headline, I think it's powerful.
Yes.
As the headline itself says.
Absolutely. So we toss that.
So the Star, for its headline and its illustration, gives us our winning headline.
Yes.
Onto the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country, where we also have a 3-part criteria that we use. We ask ourselves, is it humorous or dry? Is it satirical or pessimistic? And is it effective or just plain lazy?
Let's begin with the
What do we have here? So we have, Gato, I think he's back, guys.
He's back.
So we have a cartoon of a BBI bus being driven by none other than Uhuru Kenyatta, caricature, and a caricature of Raila Odinga looking out of the passenger's window. And you can see all manner of politicians in the back. And then atop of this bus is a bicycle and all sorts of furniture. There's even a mountain goat there. There's everything. But under this bus looks like Arab Mashamba. It looks like
holding
a caricature
on for dear life
of DP under there. And it says, and he says, Raila says, I threw him under the bus. He is gone. Finished. Kaput. Now here, there's lots of things going on. Firstly, there's stereotypes. The people who carry their furniture home every Christmas, bicycles. You're there. There's bicycles. There's a drum. There's goats. There's everything.
We know who's boarded.
We know who has boarded recently. But it's interesting. They're basically saying that for DP sort of showing resistance towards BBI, that has been his outcome.
This is a fantastic cartoon.
It's a beautiful
I think it's brilliant also because you might miss Ruto under the bus.
Under the bus. Yeah.
Fantastic. I say let's park
it. I think we park it and we consider that as one of the winning contenders. Okay, and what do we have in the Nation?
In the Nation, Dula has drawn a caricature of former sports cabinet secretary at Chesa. And he's posing there in front of the office of the deputy president, and he's holding a selfie stick like a CCTV camera. And I think it's just making a commentary about the videos we've been seeing, the footage we've been seeing, but also how he's so brazen. He's literally like, I'm not hiding.
He was all over that CCTV footage.
He's like crying for who?
Exactly. Selfies don't lie. Honestly, I think that's one of the strangest things with this case. How terribly it was concealed.
It's so blatant.
It's so blatant, so obvious.
Yes.
It is. Okay.
Good.
We can park that. And what
finally
we have in
the Star.
And then in the Star we have Ozone, and Ozone has put together a gun, a Glock, but Glock that also is in the shape of a CCTV camera. And it says CCTV. And then it says there's a blood splatter that says KENEI murder probe, and then the smoking gun, because I suspect this all will lie with piecing together this footage.
I think it's actually a really good cartoon, but I still go back to my issue with Ozone. He just writes too much.
He didn't need to write smoking gun.
And he didn't even need to write the murder probe. I feel like it's in the moment. It's very topical. You don't need to spell it out for us.
All those, But there are people who might have missed it. Shall we toss the Star?
Toss the Star.
So it's between the Daily Nation and the Standard. Who do
I think we give it to Gado.
Gado.
Gado for throwing people under the bus.
Yes.
Gives us our winning cartoon. What is our final thought?
And now our final thought. Today is inspired by Queen Cleopatra herself, as we conclude this week looking into political strategy and political genius.
Yeah.
But I think before we get into that, maybe you can give us the
summary. Yeah, so we've been looking at key figures in history and sort of their political strategies over time, right? So on Monday, we looked at Abraham Lincoln in a book called Team of Rivals, and the political genius of Abraham Lincoln by Doris Goodwin. And we looked at the personal qualities that allowed Abe Lincoln to win over men who had previously opposed him, and how he rose above his political rivals and used empathy to unite not just his enemies but an entire country.
Yes.
On Tuesday, we looked at Catherine the Great, my personal favorite, a portrait of a woman by Robert K. Massey. And then we looked at an amazing woman born into a minor noble family but transformed herself into Empress of Russia by sheer determination.
Yeah.
For 34 years, she ruled Russia, dealing with domestic rebellion, foreign wars, among other things. She was pragmatic and a charming leader. On Wednesday, we looked at Paul Kagame, his origins, his history, and how he was a student of Yoweri Museveni, and how Kagame was in fact one of the National Resistance Army soldiers in Uganda, how he became part of the military intelligence as well, and how his presidency now sort of is touted for getting stuff done, his ability to get stuff done, and how Kigali is also one of the cleanest and orderly cities in Africa.
Yep.
He's also fashioned himself as the savior of the people after genocide, and how we maybe concluded that maybe what we do need is a little more discipline and a little less democracy. And on Thursday, we looked at Kim Jong-un of North Korea, and we saw how he pursues a political strategy of isolation as a country, and whose philosophy has hinged on economic self-reliance, political independence, and military autonomy. And we saw how North Korea functions as a true hermit kingdom.
Yes.
Lack of cooperation with others, and how the little rocket man is going to continue to terrorize us. For time to come.
Exactly.
Yes.
So to round out this week, also in anticipation of International Women's Day, which celebrates hard-working women, we're going to look at Cleopatra. So in this book, lecturer and in Egyptology at the University of Manchester, Joyce Tiddlesby challenges the popular portrait of the ancient world's most famous monarch. This book is a solid biography on Cleopatra, appreciating her cleverness and ability as a politician and examining how the world reacted to her in that time. So Tiddlesby admits that there are simply too many details missing in the history of Cleopatra to write a conventional biography. And it's very difficult to separate myth from fiction because it's very hard to get accurate facts. So the challenge lies in the scarcity of reliable accounts of Cleopatra's life, including her flings with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, two of the most powerful men on earth at that time. So who was Cleopatra? She was the last ruler of the Macedonian Empire. She was highly intelligent and she spoke many languages, but she was ruthless in dealing with her enemies, many who were also within her own family. She forced her brother off the throne that they were actually meant to share, and rumor has it that she killed her two other brothers in order to secure her rights to the throne.
What a sibling.
Right? So she steered her kingdom through difficult times and very nearly succeeded in creating an Eastern empire that would rival that of the Roman Empire. But she sought to defend Egypt from the expanding Roman Empire. That is what she's known most for. And in doing so, she formed relationships with two of the most powerful leaders, as I said, Mark Antony and Julius Caesar. Her romantic liaisons and the military alliances that she developed with these Roman leaders led to one son with Julius Caesar and three others with Mark Antony. And for this, Cleopatra, as we know, has been called a temptress who used her sexuality to maintain a grip over the throne of Egypt. But in this book, we find out that the truth of her life is more fascinating and more complicated than her just being a woman who used her body. She actively influenced Roman politics in this crucial period. She realized that she needed Roman support, or more specifically, Caesar's support, if she was to maintain the throne. And each was using the other for their own objective. Cleopatra was determined to keep her throne, but Caesar sought money to repay the debts that Cleopatra's father had incurred during wartime. So she recognized Rome as the leading power of the ancient world. And she saw that Egypt, which was rich in grain and gold, provided the necessary materials that Rome would then need. So both affairs began with a political agenda. And this enabled the queen to establish a secure and profitable union between Rome and Egypt. As a leader, she knew exactly what she wanted. She was brave and she was a cool-headed political realist, struggling to save herself in the time when the Roman Empire was really growing. She ruled for over 20 years and managed to delay the Romans taking over Egypt. She took over a country from her at a time when it was struggling when her father was the ruler, and she strengthened the economy that so much so when she died, the country was in a very stable position. And at the end of the day, I think from this book we realize that that's a legacy that is really not, she's not given credit for.
Exactly.
As a woman, but also as a leader.
Yes,
absolutely. Remarkable leader. So I'll talk a little bit about seduction and how she managed to seduce Caesar. But before that, a bit of background to expand on what you've said. So she was a master tactician, and she used her relationships with Roman politicians to build Egypt's power. And so at age 14, Cleopatra was named co-ruler of Egypt by her father, Ptolemy XII. And when he died, he named his son, Ptolemy XIII, as successor. But Ptolemy XIII didn't want to share the throne with his sister. And so for a while, Cleopatra actually had to live in exile in Syria. But Ptolemy XIII didn't last long on the throne. He allied himself with the rebellious Roman leader Pompey. And Pompey had gone into a war with Caesar, which eventually Caesar won. And Cleopatra seized that opportunity then to kind of charm Caesar, precisely to seize Caesar. And so she charmed Caesar so much that Caesar ended up moving in to live with her at the palace, I think, in Egypt.
What a woman.
And thereafter, that's when she became pregnant with his child, and that gave her more valuable political leverage in Egypt and in Rome. So how did she seduce Caesar? The first thing she did, we are told by Robert Greene in the Art of Seduction, was to use his insecurities to win him over. So in the Art of Seduction, Greene says, all of us have a void, an emptiness, but for one reason or another, which for one reason or another we have been unable to fill. And so he says, if you wish to seduce someone, you should find out what their void is and demonstrate that you know how to soothe that pain or fill that sense of emptiness. And it applies not only in the romantic realm, Greene says, but also in the political realm. So in the political realm, for example, great seducers like Raila Odinga successfully create the impression that voting for them will improve your life.
Wow.
I can attest to that.
Oh gosh.
To that belief. The second thing she did was to use her superiority to make Caesar eager to prove her worth to her. So Cleopatra, many people I think don't realize, was actually born of royal heritage. And so she used that to her advantage. Whenever she would speak to Caesar, she would occasionally speak of her ancestor Alexander the Great.
In case you forgot.
She was actually
Greek.
And remind him of how much of a military genius he was and how she admired him. And those subtle references stirred up all sorts of anxieties as well as insecurities in Caesar. And that made him feel as though he had to prove himself to her constantly.
Again, what a woman.
I'm telling you, really a master tactician, master strategist who knew how to get her way.
That is fantastic. So this book, what I liked about it was challenging that simple image that we have of Cleopatra. That she was sexy, that she was good looking, that she was, you know, all those
temptress.
Exactly. Because she actually uncovers that there's no actual evidence that she had more than 2 lovers. So there is Mark Antony, like you said, and there's Caesar. And she was faithful to Caesar up until his death, and then now with Mark Antony. But she was a clever woman. That's what led her to lead for these 20 years. But she also, I think, propaganda or media or history has not been very kind to her in leaving out this how masterful she was as a tactician and how intelligent she really was. So for instance, in the book, Joyce says, the modern image of her as this being this stunning beauty, there's actually no evidence of. And when you look at the coins at that time, Cleopatra is drawn with a big chin and a big nose. I don't know if those are ugly things, but she was drawn with them, and she didn't want to look delicate. She wanted to look powerful and solid, and that may have been an exaggeration of the person who did her portraits. And the other thing I think that is interesting is that Cleopatra over time has become a victim of propaganda. So Cleopatra was a victim because she was a lot of the older pharaohs were forgotten, a lot of the Egyptian pharaohs, but Cleopatra manages to survive because when the Romans write history, she survives as this great enemy of the Romans. And when Augustus takes power in Rome and defeats Cleopatra, he built her up as this great enemy. And so he, makes her this big, big villain. And he says that so that Roman history has put her there.
Yeah.
But then she now has become ingrained in our minds as this powerful, sexy, evil woman, because part of human nature likes to think of a woman being this way.
Yes.
And so it has sort of stuck. And so Roman writers created this myth around her, but she also was very good at creating myths about herself.
Yes.
So she manipulated Egyptian religion so that she was the living embodiment of the goddess Isis.
Yeah.
Who I believe was the goddess of healing, of women and children.
Yes.
Very
she had this
powerful.
magical aura around her, which allowed her to not only confirm her status, but also to command the obedience of Egyptians at that time.
Yeah.
So smart woman.
Such a smart woman.
I like her very much.
Absolutely.
So on a day where we had a winning headline,
winning cartoon
from the Standard and a winning headline from the Star, I want to leave you with simple words that she said.
Yeah.
She said, hold on 1 second, if I will not be triumphed over. Yeah,
short and sweet.
Yeah, and may you also live your lives that way.
Yeah,
thinking that you will triumph over everything, and
I think
they will not triumph.
She's such an embodiment of what a working woman looks like.
Exactly.
And I think it's a perfect way to end this week as we go into International Women's Day.
On the 8th.
Celebrate the women around you.
Absolutely.
Maybe take them to a spa.
Yes.
Give them a massage.
Yes.
Right. Bustani. Bustani spa possibly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So enjoy.
Yes.
Have a good week.